So you might be seeing job listings everywhere, but how many of them are actually fake? Well, stick around because in this video, I'm going to break down the rise in ghost job postings. Hey everybody, it's Brian from Life After Layoff, and today I want to talk about the phenomena of ghost postings, or these fake job postings that you might be noticing on the job market. But before we get too far into it, if you're interested in more career-related content just like this, maybe hit that subscribe button. So in this crazy job market that we've been in, we've got a lot of conflicting data. We've got the Fed saying that the job market's absolutely robust, and we've got a record number of job openings. And oh wow, you can't go onto the news anymore without seeing another major corporation announcing a layoff. And something just doesn't seem to be adding up. We've got record numbers of jobs, yet we've got all these layoffs, and there's positions that seemingly never get filled. Now, my own opinion on the labor market is, when I read the tea leaves, it doesn't feel quite as bad as it did in 2020. Well, I will say that. People are still landing jobs as of today. I still see people announcing on LinkedIn and other places that they found gainful employment after being laid off. It seems like the employment pendulum has swung back to the employer, and they're starting to do things like forcing people back into the office. Of course, we talked about the poor behavior of employers and how they've handled layoffs as a whole. But that's not all. To add insult to injury, we are seeing an increase in these ghost postings. And what exactly is a ghost posting? Simply put, it's a job that is posted that an employer has no real intention of ever filling. Now, I've talked about pipelining recs on this channel before, but if you're not familiar with what a pipelining rec is, essentially it is a rec that has been posted by an employer with the goal of just collecting resumes for a future date. They don't have any intention of actually filling the rec, but they want to collect people so that when they do start to recruit again, that in theory, they would have a head start. And I'll say that these do exist because I have found one in my local market for a company that I know just had a massive layoff. And as I stated in the previous video, the optics around it are pretty shady. And in my own career, I've had leaders suggest posting these pipelining recs as well. And I've always taken exception to it because I feel it's a very poor candidate experience. In a market where you have a lot of laid off people, the person who is looking for a job is not interested in being jerked around by a pipelining rec where the employer has no intention of filling it, because they're taking the time to put together an application. And hopefully, if you followed my resume rocket fuel course, you've put together a very targeted custom resume to give yourself the best chance of getting noticed for that opportunity. But at the end of the day, there has to be somebody on the other end that's actually considering your application and realistically trying to fill a job. But I think sometimes employers, and in particular leaders in talent acquisition, lose sight of the candidate experience in that regard, and they don't put themselves in the job seeker's shoes and look at it from their perspective. If you live in an area where there's limited job opportunities and the alpha employer in your market posts a job that you might be really interested in, you're going to get pretty excited about it. You're going to take that time to really present yourself as best you can, and you're probably going to be anxiously refreshing your screen, your email, to see if the recruiter has reached back out to you to set up that first round interview. And you're going to be refreshing for a very, very long time. It's just not a good look, and I just wish employers would think candidate experience first. So if you're an employer watching this, get rid of your stupid pipelining recs. Now, I do want to point out that I feel, and this is my own personal opinion, that the total number of job openings is misleading. I feel like a lot of the jobs that are posted, and this record number of jobs that they keep on saying are out there, I feel like a lot of them are contract positions. I feel like a lot of them are part-time. I feel like a lot of them are seasonal, and they probably don't pay benefits, and they're not what we would generally consider to be career-type jobs. And I think as a job seeker, you're going in and up looking for these jobs, and you're hearing everywhere that the job market's great, it's robust, there's this record number of jobs, and you're thinking to yourself, like, I'm just not seeing it. I think those numbers are fudged for whatever reason. I don't know, maybe to make somebody look good. But whatever it is, I do feel it's misleading for the average job seeker. So that's why it's all the more frustrating that there is indeed this rise in these fake job postings. It's like, not only do we have this rise in layoffs and all this stuff, but we also have a rise in these fake jobs. And it's just a kind of a perfect storm for the average job seeker. So let's jump into the survey. We'll walk through some of those results, and I'll share my thoughts on it and just kind of break it down. So Clarify Capital surveyed 1,045 managers who were involved in the hiring process about ghost jobs. And this survey was conducted between August 31st and September 1st of last year, of 2022. What they found was 68% of managers had job postings active for more than 30 days. Now, I'll say from a recruiting perspective, a lot of the jobs that we recruit, especially for the highly skilled, highly educated positions, tend to stay open longer than 30 days. In fact, I think average time to fill at most companies is 45, maybe even 60 days. So the 68% of hiring managers saying that they have jobs that have been open for longer than 30 days is not like super shocking. The 1 in 10 hiring managers has a job posting over 6 months. Now, that's either what we would call an aging rec, so a rec that is now usually goes onto a list and there's usually some extra resources thrown at it. And then we want to dig into the root cause of why it's aging. Is there a hiring manager that's extra particular and is just rejecting everybody? Is it such a unique skill set that maybe the hiring manager needs to open up their parameters a little bit and stop being so picky? Or is there just not any candidates in the market? Here it says 1 in 5 managers don't plan to fill open job postings until 2023. Now, the survey was done in 2022, so that's why there's a delay here. But 1 in 5 managers doesn't plan to fill job openings until much further in the future. And more shockingly, is 50% of managers keep job postings open because they're always open to new people. This next chart is very telling, and it's something that opened my eyes up a little bit, and it's when do employers plan to fill their active job postings? Now, when I have gotten recs from my hiring managers in the past, I don't think I've ever had a hiring manager, maybe once or twice, I've had a hiring manager say that they want to delay it for whatever reason, but it's almost always like I needed a job open or a job filled 2 weeks ago. So it's a sense of urgency, and out of the gate, you're rushing to try to get your initial candidates. It's kind of like a mad sprint, and you're running around like a chicken with your head cut off trying to get these candidates for them. So the fact that these employers are actually planning to fill their active jobs several months down the road is very head scratching. And I'm wondering if this is a symptom of employers being very ambiguous with their hiring plans. If it's tied to layoffs, they have these jobs posted that they want to fill, but they're not really quite sure what headcount's going to look like or whatever the case might be. But if that's the case, pull the rec down and stop collecting resumes. But the number of employers who are actively self-reporting that they're looking several months down the road to fill their jobs is almost shocking. Next up, let's look at the reason why employers post these ghost jobs. The most common reasons employers aren't actively trying to fill a position, 50%, is that the company is always open to new people. So in other words, they just want to keep recs open to see who applies, and maybe there's somebody good that applies and they would love to just see them. It's like almost like you want to just browse. It's like you walk into the store, you just want to browse and see what's up. Maybe you want to get the catalog in the mail so you can flip through it and see if there's anything that really catches your attention. Maybe there's some big sale that pops up and you go, yeah, okay, fine, I'll buy it. But in general, there's not an intention to hire. They just are doing window shopping. So that one, 50%, but probably seems about right, but that's disappointing. The next one is to keep current employees motivated. And I just don't see how open postings would keep employees motivated. I guess maybe unless you're trying to lie to them about there being an open job for them, in which case it's not going to keep people motivated for very long. But I'm really trying to understand how keeping a fake job open or a job and tricking your current employees into thinking that there's jobs posted keeps your employees who are already working there motivated. So if you have any insight on that one, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. Next one is to give the impression that the company is growing. I mean, it almost seems illegal to do that in a way, because if you're giving the impression that a company is growing and you're an investor in their stock and you go on and look at their open job postings, I feel like that could be potentially illegal. I don't know. I'm not sure. If anybody knows the legality of that, from an SEC perspective, speak up, leave a comment. But giving the impression that a company is growing is deceitful to both the job candidate and the investor. So I feel like that's very, very shady in that regard. And that's all the more reason to do your own reverse reference check on the company, because if they're being shady here, it's funny. It's double standard. They look for people who are being shady on their resume, but they can be completely shady themselves and there's no consequence there. But a company who is trying to trick people into believing that they're growing is not a company that you want to work for anyway. The next one is the job was filled. And if the job rec is filled, you should pull the rec down. There's no reason to keep it open anymore. So that one I would put squarely on the recruiter. If the job gets filled, you go into the ATS system, you assign that person as a hired status, and it should automatically pull the rec down, unless they're just not using a very sophisticated ATS system. But the recruiter should be checking that and ensuring that they're not advertising jobs that simply don't exist. The next one is to have an active pool of candidates or applicants in case there is turnover. This is exactly the same advice I'm giving you. You should always act like a free agent and always keep your resume up to date and always be willing to listen to new opportunities, because you never know. Companies clearly are doing the same thing. They're always keeping candidate pools ready in case somebody decides to leave. So why shouldn't you be doing the same thing yourself? The next one is in case an irresistible candidate applies. This is like the guy going fishing. He casts his line, sticks it in the ground, and sits back and drinks beer and doesn't even pay attention to it. Maybe he catches a fish, maybe he doesn't really care. But if that big fish comes along, he doesn't have to do any work and catches it, then he's a successful fisherman. So to me, that one's just lazy. It's lazy recruiting and it's irresponsible. The next one is to placate overworked employees. Now, this one is particularly sinister because you're trying to placate people who are already telling you that they're overloaded, overworked, and they're probably going to quit. And you're telling them, don't worry, the cavalry's coming. And then all the while, you're going over to the recruiter and saying, actually, the cavalry's not coming. Let's just put this out there and trick them. That is so shady, and there's so much wrong with that. If you work for an employer who is telling you that the cavalry is coming, yet the cavalry never shows up, you might be a victim of ghost recs. And let's face it, I think you know what you need to do. The next one is, of course, the forgot to delete the job. Whoopsie daisy. That's a lazy recruiter or lazy HR person. There's no real excuse for that one. And the last one is that there's no reason in particular. They simply just don't care. So I don't have a whole lot to say about that one because if they don't care, why should I? So let's end this video with how we notice and, more importantly, how we avoid falling victim to a ghost rec. I think it all boils down to the job posting itself. Take a look at, number one, when was it posted? If it's still up after 6 months, chances are they have no intention of filling it, and it's probably a ghost rec. And if it's a rec that keeps on getting posted over and over and over again over a long period of time, it's probably another good indicator that it is a ghost rec, or you've got a hiring manager that just simply can't make a decision, or they hire people and they can't keep them. They keep on turning them over. And in any one of those cases, it's not a good situation. It's a low quality employer, a low quality rec, and one that you don't want anyway. The next thing I'd be doing is doing my due diligence and my reverse reference checks. I would be looking to see, did they have a major layoff recently? And were the positions that were affected the same positions that they're now posting these ghost jobs for? Because if that's the case, they may be trying to get ready in the future to hire those same roles back, and they want to get this pipeline of people set up. And in that case, I'm not applying for that job because they've already shown me that they're not loyal to that particular job and it's vulnerable. So it wouldn't be a position that I would even be interested in anyway. Next thing I would be doing is I would be going through and really looking at the job description, reading it very carefully, making sure that there's a lot of detail in it, because when there's more detail in a rec and there's more specifics about what exactly it is that you'll be accomplishing and who you'll be supporting and all of those things, that's an indicator that it's a more serious rec. The hiring manager is actively putting this stuff in. In fact, the pipelining recs that I've seen generally read pretty generic. They kind of talk salesy about the company, don't really have a specific role. But if the rec is generic, it's a pretty big red flag and one that I would avoid. And then, of course, the recency of the post. If it was posted in the last week, it's more likely to be a rec that they're actively recruiting on. If it ages out to 6 months, then it's probably not as serious. But if it's more recent, it's more likely that it's going to be an actual legit rec that they're actually looking to fill. So go ahead and apply to that one. There you have it, directly from the employer's mouth. They are totally doing these ghost posts. You are not going crazy and thinking that these posts are fake. And I personally do not agree with it. And I'm going to teach you on this channel how to avoid those kind of recs, because we only want to be focused on the best quality roles with the best quality employers. And we want to treat ourselves like true free agents and the CEOs of our career. If you need more help finding legitimate posts and getting yourself hired by legitimate companies that actually have high quality roles, that's actually something that I specialize in. We've got a website called alifeafterlayoff.com. It's loaded with tips and tricks, all from an insider's perspective. And I do share my deepest and most intimate recruiting knowledge in the form of some training courses. And the first one is called Resume Rocket Fuel. It's designed to teach you how to write a resume. It's going to give you the best chance of getting noticed by those recruiters in order to get that legitimate first round interview. But it's more than just how to write a resume. It's actually how to use your resume strategically so that it's a skill that you develop in your career and you're going to use it over and over again. So if you don't know the purpose of the resume and how it should be strategically used, I would really encourage you to check out Resume Rocket Fuel, because it's a really good course for that. And it's the only one that I know of its kind. If you want to look at the entire interviewing process as a whole, make sure you check out the Ultimate Job Seeker Bootcamp. It's going to take you A to Z through the entire hiring process, how to make yourself the most attractive to an employer, all the way through landing that offer, and then how to negotiate it. And the nice thing about the course is that I teach you negotiation techniques that can usually get you enough money back to easily cover the course and then some. And if you got a big interview coming up and you're looking to consolidate everything into the quickest, most powerful interview prep, make sure you check out the 48-hour interview crash course. It's going to give you consolidated information, absolutely no fluff. It's designed to get you up to speed, ready to go, and feeling very confident when you walk in the door. So if you're struggling in your job search, all of these tools are designed designed to work very closely together to get you where you want to go. Hopefully this video gives you a little bit more insight into ghost postings and how you can avoid them and target only those best quality roles. We appreciate you watching. We'll see you on the next one.